Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, self-esteem. Let's see. Yeah. That's right. Self-esteem fuels your authenticity. What? Yes, it does. I think it does. Confidence and the courage to be yourself comes from a healthy self-esteem. I guess maybe this is kind of like the chicken or the egg. What comes first? The willingness to be authentic, or self-esteem? I don't know, because they feed on each other, right? You can see how if you start acting authentically, you might gain a little bit of confidence because people will start like actually accepting and loving you for who you really are, which feels freaking fantastic. And then you get a little bit more confidence, a little bit more, and it just goes bloop, 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 bloop. So I don't know, chicken or the egg. I actually don't know. So what is self-esteem? Like, what actually is it? So it is a belief in your, oh, hold on. My tech just went a little wonky. I hate when it does this. No. Crazy pants. All right. So self-esteem is this belief in your inherent and like unchangeable, immutable worthiness as a person. So it's a belief you have about yourself that you are worthy. And what you're worthy of, I will be getting to in a little bit. So yeah, self-esteem can help sustain the courage that's required to live authentically, to get outside your comfort zone and say, hey, this is who I am, right? Like that takes serious courage. So the other thing about self-esteem is it is positively correlated with achievement, with good, rewarding relationships, and also with life satisfaction. So that's pretty dang cool. The other thing that I thought was really fascinating is that self-esteem fluctuates throughout our lives. I think some of us, certainly I have in the past, I've tended to view self-esteem as fixed. Like I felt like I don't have it. I just don't have it. And that's not true. That's not true. It's something that grows and changes as we do. And yeah, it fluctuates. And you can have too much of it, right? We probably all know people who are like really wildly overly confident or really, really self-centered. I think overly high self-esteem is part of the condition of narcissism. So you can't have too much of it. Most of us, though, seem to have too little of it. So that's what we're focusing on today. So I'm just curious, you guys, on like a scale, my nose itches so bad. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much self-esteem do you feel you currently have? So 1 would be like, I'm worthless. I'm worthless. I'm completely worthless. 10 would be like, oh, I'm 100% full of worth. I'm so worthy. There's no room for anything else. And if you want to share it in chat, go ahead. You do not have to, any shape or form. I think I have a 7 today. Yeah, I think my self-esteem is a 7. That feels right. So I'm going to write that down because I want to remember. Oh, SS, man. Sending you support, my friend. Yeah, well, you know what? It's just like, yeah, like a lot of us, it's a struggle for sure. For sure. So, the I don't know if this will like resonate with you guys, but the way that I look at a number 1, it's not like a bad thing at all. Like everything in life is good and it's bad. So the opportunity in a 1 is that you have so much room to grow, right? And to cultivate more self-esteem. Whereas like if you're at like a 10 is probably like, the way I phrase that scale, like nobody really wants to be at a 10 probably. I don't know. But yeah, if you're in the higher numbers, you just don't have as much, like improvement you can make, so to speak. So the benefits will be less on the journey. But yeah, so hopefully you guys like what I'm laying down today, and it, you know, it's helpful. But know too that like there's nothing wrong with you for having a self-esteem of 1 at all. At all. Like we so all are there from time to time. Yeah, so anyways, just in case you were feeling bad or judging yourself, because that's what I tend to do, I just wanted to say that. So, okay, so psychology holds that our self-esteem or our lack of self-esteem is indeed directly tied to our beliefs about how worthy we are and how valuable we think we are as people. And there's a theory from, this is going to sound so silly, a theory from evolutionary theory that backs this up. There is a social psychologist by the name of Mark Leary, and he developed the sociometer theory, which I'm mentioning because I'm going to tie it all together. But he holds that self-esteem is an internal gauge of the degree to which one is included versus excluded by others. So in other words, our self-esteem is an internal creation that's based on like our anticipation of being accepted or rejected. So our self-esteem is high when we believe people accept us, and it's low when we think people will reject us or are rejecting us. So to put those two together, on one hand, our self-esteem is dependent on whether or not we believe we're worthy, and on the other hand, it's dependent on whether or not we anticipate acceptance or rejection. But those are so absolutely connected, because what we're worried, okay, so when we think we're not worthy, what we're really at the root of it thinking is we're not worthy of love and belonging. Like that's what worthiness is. So if we're worried that we're not worthy of love and belonging, or we think that we're not worthy of love and belonging, then yeah, we're gonna think we're gonna get rejected. So I see those two theories as complementary and two ways of saying the same thing, really. So I have a short video that I really want to share with you guys, and it's Brene Brown with Oprah on Super Soul Sunday, and it's just such a good short video. And if you don't know Brene Brown's work, she is amazing. She's a shame and vulnerability researcher, and through that she has like come up with like a really like so many valuable theories about worthiness and self-esteem and courage and all that good stuff. So this will explain what I'm saying really, really well.
I love in the TEDx talk, I think it was a TEDx talk, where you talk about the original definition of courage. Can you share that?
Yeah.
I love that.
I do too. It's from the Latin word cur, meaning heart. And so the original definition was to share all of yourself, share your whole story with your whole heart. So an act of courage was an act of storytelling, which I think is true. I think so many of us, you know, I watch Super Soul Sunday, and I love when you talk a lot about the ego.
Yes.
To me, I call the ego the hustler. He's my hustler.
Yeah, that's a good term for it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the hustler. And the ego says to me, you have no inherent worth. You got to hustle for it, baby. How fast you gonna run? How high you gonna jump? How many likes do you have on Facebook? How many comments do you have on that post? That's the hustle.
Yeah. And isn't it, we now live in a culture that measures ourselves, by how many likes we get on Facebook.
For sure.
Yeah, yeah.
We are in, I feel like, scarcity culture. Never enough. Never good enough, thin enough, rich enough, safe enough, certain enough. And you know what I think is interesting is, I wanted to get your thought on this, just because you've also been looking in the faces of people for the last many years, right?
Yes, yeah.
I started my research 6 months before 9/11. Obviously, coincidentally. We are afraid. I would say the last 12 years have been marked by a deep fear in our culture. It's like a collective post-traumatic response. Like all of a sudden,
Oh my God, I just had a big aha.
what?
I just had a big, finish speaking, but I
Okay.
just got that. I got that in
Okay.
a big way.
No,
I
that
hope
like,
everybody else, I hope other people got it too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
you know what
well,
yeah.
tell me.
No,
No,
you
you
go.
go.
She's so excited.
No, that was such a
I
big
love that
aha. That was
Tell
such
me. No, I can
a,
track
when you
that.
just said that, I just realized that we shifted from being on alert and afraid of whether it's the orange code or the yellow code. We somehow internalized that fear, and it shows up. It shows up in the snarkiness and that we have internalized the fear. So we're not
That's
worried
it.
about what the code alert is anymore because we think we're safe there. We got Homeland Security looking at that. But that fear has been internalized. That's what I heard you saying.
That's it. There is a thin.
That's it. I
got
that.
I got the high five.
Yeah.
No, I think there's like a thin film of terror wrapped around us. And so if it's not, I'm not safe enough, I'm not secure enough, it's I'm not liked enough, I'm not promoted enough, I'm not loved enough.
I don't
Scarcity,
have enough.
I don't have enough.
I am not enough.
At the very bottom,
Yeah.
I'm not enough.
Yeah.
And-
Whoa, that's big. Big. Somebody ring some bells. We need some bells to ring on this show. But that's
No,
good.
that's it. And so guess what the number one casualty is of a scarcity culture?
What?
Vulnerability.
We shut down.
We shut down.
Because I'm not going to let you know.
No, because I'm
that
already scared.
I'm not
right?
all together.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing is that people are like, oh, well, we lose a little vulnerability. But vulnerability is not just about fear and grief and disappointment. It's the birthplace of everything we're hungry for.
Creativity.
Joy, creativity, faith,
Yeah.
love.
Innovation and
Yeah.
all of that. Yes.
And the whole thing is there is no innovation and creativity without failure. Period.
So you got to be open enough to take the risk to fail.
Yeah.
All right. All right. What? Yeah, so for those of you just joining us, we're talking about self-esteem and how it's really this fuel to our authenticity and gives us the courage to risk letting people see who we really are.
The pants we're going to wear tomorrow.
And what I got out of that video, there's a lot in there that I love, but that it's this idea that, right, like there are, hold on, I have two videos. I might have shown the wrong one first. What did I do?
And the day after that.
Okay, so yeah. What? Dude, Yeti dude. Yes. Absolutely. That's like that high five moment. That is exactly it. That's exactly it. Anytime we do anything that's connected to another human being, we're vulnerable. Especially if that thing is important to us. Like that is just vulnerable because we are risking acceptance or rejection, and we are genetically like hardwired to not want to be rejected because it affected our survival. So this is like primordial instinctual stuff that we battle in order to engage in the stuff that really matters to us in life. And I truly believe that the scariest thing any person can do emotionally is allow themselves to be seen by another human being and to risk seeing somebody else. Like, that's it. That is like extreme discomfort zone. Yeah, absolutely. That is absolutely it. And so self-esteem then like requires these courageous acts of radical self-acceptance and vulnerability. Yeah, okay. So I want to, I'm just going to show the second video now because I think if it's the one I'm thinking it is, it's even better. And we'll really focus on the worthiness part of this that we're then going to like use to do some work on ourselves if you want to. And if not, you can just watch us do it. And that's totally cool too. All right, so let me cue it up. Oops, I gotta. All right, here we go, guys. It's only a minute, 24 seconds.
About worthiness is that there are no prerequisites for worthiness. There is, I think most of us think, I'm pretty worthy of love and belonging, but I'd be super worthy of love and belonging if I could lose 15 pounds. Or I'm made partner, or my wife doesn't leave, or I stay sober, or whatever our thing is. And the hard thing about worthiness is there are no prerequisites for worthiness. Worthiness is an as-is, here and now proposition. That this is, and to me, that's the definition of wholeheartedness. Wholeheartedness is about engaging with the world from a place of worthiness.
Are you either a person who feels a sense of worthiness or not, or can you work on your worthiness?
I do think it's about figuring out where did that come from? Where does the pool of shame come from? And I think in our families, we get handed down explicitly or not explicitly, right?
Yes.
Those prerequisites for worthiness. And sometimes it's because our parents look at us and say, here's what you need to do and be and look like to be worthy. And sometimes it's just, we just watch.
And sometimes it's what we've done to ourselves.
Oh, that's the one I meant to show first. Whoops. It's all good. Yeah, okay. So that's the main takeaway here is that there are no prereqs to being worthy. We are worthy just because we are. We like assign ourselves prerequisites and we get them from our families, from our friends, from our culture. So we're all living with these like rules about what we have to have before we are worthy of love and belong, before we're enough. And Brene Brown mentioned it's so, yes, Quanetly, it is hard. Like anytime, it's hard, but it's doable. Like that's the amazing thing about that. Like when as I research more and more and more about this stuff, I am like blown away with gratitude that this is all something we have control over. Can you imagine? Like it could have gone the other way, right? We could have just had a fixed amount of self-esteem that you just are genetically given for the rest of your life. And it's like, too bad. Like you're either going to have it or you're not. And you're either going to suffer because you don't have, like, you know what I mean? Like that's not the way it is. We all have this ability to take responsibility for it. It may not be easy, but it is absolutely possible. And by doing it together, I think it gets easier. Like you don't have to do it alone, you know? And that inspires me and that makes me feel a little bit more like it's possible. But that, like, this is the thing, like what we believe, the thoughts that we think in our head create our emotions and our emotions create our actions. So if we're walking around with, you know, I'll be worthy when blah, 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 right? That's gonna create the emotions of unworthiness, of shame, of sadness, of powerlessness, of fear. And then those emotions, imagine what those actions are gonna create. But we have the opportunity to do work on ourselves and start working with those beliefs and challenging those beliefs to change them. And that's what we're about to do, the very beginning of this process. So if you want to join me, you can. And as always, guys, you're at choice. You don't need to. So I'm really curious now, right? Like, what are my prerequisites for worthiness? And what are your prerequisites? What are the things you're telling yourself that is keeping you from having self-esteem? And we're gonna, so this is like the first question, and if you wanna write them down and keep a record of them, that's great. We're gonna be using them later on. You can also put them in chat if you want to practice your bravery and further stretch your discomfort. No pressure. So what are your prereqs for worthiness? And you can start the sentence for each one like this: I'll be worthy of love and belonging when, or I'll be enough when, whichever one resonates more with you. So for example, one of mine is I'll be enough when I'm rich. Right? Like, that's definitely a message I tell myself. And that makes me, like, just to say that out loud, like, feels embarrassing, because, like, I know money doesn't mean anything, right? It doesn't reflect, like, I would never judge somebody else for the amount of money they have, and yet I judge myself for it, for not having enough. And owning that, like, I kind of want to just, like, I wish this wasn't live. I, like, wish I could go back and edit out, right? Like, it's uncomfortable to own this stuff. But that is one that I'm aware of, or discovering, and so I'm able to say it. I will share some more of mine in the hopes that it will inspire you to be able to own some of yours as well. So I'll be worthy of love and belonging when I have kids. Yep. There we go. Yeah. I'll be worthy of worthy when I am clean, tidy, and uncluttered. Yeah. I'll be worthy when I have a master's degree. Like, these are, I'm laughing because it's embarrassing. I'll be worthy when I save my loved one. That's one I have a lot. I'll be worthy when I never make mistakes. As if that's ever gonna happen. Oh, thanks, Quantity. That is a huge one. SS, that is one that I have heard many times before from other people. Yeah. I, like, especially depending on what culture you live in, but there's so many messages around your worth coming from your job. So many. And depending, and just like for food for thought, like in America, one of the things that Brene talks about our culture, and this is what I'm going to be talking to my fire chief friend about, is vulnerability in men and how it's seen as weakness. And one of the ways, like one of the most vulnerable spots for guys where they experience the most amount of shame is around work. There's just that like cliched idea that men are supposed to provide. So yeah. Yeti, dude! You're really setting yourself up for failure. It is hard. I mean, it is hard. Okay, I like change the world and not save the world, right? Because those are degrees of the same thing. And I could argue that, you know, you change the world all the time because you change my world all the time. If you guys don't know, Yeti Dude is my husband. So, yeah. How crazy, like these things that we do to ourselves. Like my last one here that I have written down is, I'll be worthy when I have clear skin all the time. Hey! Thank you for triggering Bowie. He makes me so happy. Yeah, these are not easy. These are really uncomfortable things to say and certainly uncomfortable to own. SS, you have such, like, I really like your I'm thinking the word wisdom, and it's because I always, like, in your chats, I see such perspective. And that's something I could benefit from in my life, is having more perspective around things. But yeah, like, you have layers in here, right? So this idea of being worthy when you're I'm assuming you mean like you're contributing to the community and you're valuable in that kind of a way. But yeah, the perspective that there's no measurement of that, right? And it never ends. It never ends. Me too, SS. And I like, yeah. Oh, and so some of these can be, what am I trying to say? Like, some of these are like noble, right? Like being a valuable part of your community, Yeti dudes of changing the world. Like, these are really valuable things that can bring a lot of meaning into your life, right? Because meaning comes from when we're in service of something larger than ourselves. And yet, here's an example of how we can use those same messages to cause ourselves to feel shame and to like knock down our self-esteem. Like, we are so good at punishing ourselves and turning good things against ourselves. Really? Oh, you've got a lot of perspective. Okay. So while we're kind of like thinking about this and percolating on ourselves, I'm just going to like take a quick aside to go a little bit high level again and talk about some of the reasons why self-esteem matters that we haven't touched on. There is a strong relationship between self-esteem and achievement and positive mental health. So individuals that have higher levels or like have a healthy level of self-esteem, they do tend to get like a greater enjoyment out of life. They have more freedom from self-doubt. They have more freedom from anxiety and social anxiety. They tend to experience less stress, and they have just in general more energy and motivation. And that's all like intuitive. Like, that just kind of makes sense to me why that would be. Then they also they tend to be more assertive in expressing their needs and opinions. And they have more confidence in their ability to make decisions. So there's just this sense of self-ownership, right? Like they're coming from a stronger place, so they can own their space a little bit more. And so they're also like able to form secure and honest relationships, and they're less likely to stay in unhealthier ones. They also have this like, they're more realistic in their expectations of themselves, in that they're less likely to be overly critical. And so I guess you could maybe say that they're more optimistic and less pessimistic, but that's just me putting a label to what that bit of the research said, and I don't know if that's true. And they're more resilient. So, doesn't that sound lovely? Like, I want more of those things. I so want more of those things. So, a common theme, right, for us, and I was touching on it a little bit earlier with this idea of we are thinking, which creates our emotions, which creates our actions and our consequences. So, a common theme for us on this stream is that we create our reality much more than we usually care to admit or are aware of. And it's kind of like our brains are tiny gods, and they're dictating the rules of our universe. I was just picturing like so many things, like wow. I think I'm picturing something out of like Men in Black, where there's like a little guy in somebody's head. And I'm picturing like the gnome boss in World of Warcraft, and the Gnome Arachnid or whatever you call it, right? And he's like in his little machine with his little, right? Like, that's what I'm picturing here. Like, we all have this like God, which is our beliefs and our thinking, dictating the rules of our universe, like putting us in a box. So we either like recognize this reality and we take control of that God power and we use it in service of what we want out of life, who we want to be, and the kind of experience we want to have, or we deny it, we ignore it, and we live trapped in this prison that's of our own making. And self-esteem is just one example. Oh, the committee. Oh, you have like a pantheon in your head. I love it. Yeah, I love it. Oh, that sounds even more ominous for some reason. I think I'm a lot more afraid of like big government than I am of a god. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So we do get boosts of self-esteem, right? When others compliment us or they praise us, or we can. Sometimes we can't, like it's hard to accept it, and then that can trigger more shame. But we often do get boosts of self-confidence when people accept us and celebrate us. The thing about that is it's like a shortcut in that it's fleeting. And there is this sense that unless your self-esteem is also coming from the inside too, then it won't be as sustained. And I guess I want to make sure that I retouch on this idea that self-esteem fluctuates in our lives, and it's something that we have the ability to expand. So it's an ongoing process, and it's not something that we either have or don't have permanently. It's not a trait, right? It's not a locked-in trait that our genes give us. So it's built and it's rebuilt one moment at a time, like really one story we tell ourselves at a time. So I want to share some quotes on self-esteem, and I invite you to listen for anything that like jumps out at you and to write that down. You'll have an opportunity to use those things in our power up that we're gonna do super soon. Ta-da! It's coming! But not yet. Not yet. You have to go do the quotes first. Okay, so, exactly, SS, everything is impermanent, right? Yeah, it ebbs and flows. I'm gonna butcher a lot of these names, so, you know, but not this one. E.E. Cummings says, once we believe in ourselves, we can risk curiosity, wonder, spontaneous delight, or any experience that reveals the human spirit. I just want to like unpack that for a second. And it reminds me of that first video we just watched, which is, it's almost like risk, like getting outside your comfort zone is required in order to experience the good thing, like the positive emotions in life, right? Like curiosity, wonder, spontaneity, delight, joy. Brene Brown talks about joy being the most vulnerable of human emotions because it's tied, like we feel joyous about things we love, and with love, it's tied directly to loss. So yeah, anyways, but you can't, okay. There's so much I could say about that, but I'm gonna rein it in for the sake of like making sense today. So the next quote is Buddha and Sharon Salzberg. They say, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. We are so much kinder to the people in our lives than we are to ourselves. Like, I remember when I first started really catching the thoughts I was saying to myself, like the judgment thoughts, the shame thoughts. I was like, here's the thing about perspective, SS, which is why I was like admiring yours, because when I'm able to then have perspective of those thoughts, I'm like, oh my gosh, I would never, ever in a million years say this to another human being. And yet I do it to myself all the time. So yeah, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Jody Picoult? That's her name. She says, when you're different, sometimes you don't see the millions of people who accept you for what you are. All you notice is the person who doesn't. Yeah, so there's this idea of when we're judging ourselves, shaming ourselves, feeling like we're not worthy, telling us all these stories that make us feel like we're not worthy, all we're really paying attention to is ourselves. And we're not able to have that perspective to show us, oh, wait a minute, I have this friend. Or, oh, I had that really nice interaction with the gas person. I don't know, right? That's exactly it, SS. Yeah, we are like, our thoughts are this giant fly swatter from hell. You know, or like giant fly swatter dipped in bug spray, slapping ourselves in the face. Yeah, that's absolutely it. And we, like, I haven't met someone that I'm aware of that doesn't do it. It's just crazy. It's crazy. And that's, I mean, we are in a jail of our own making, you know? And that's why our, like, the meditation power up that we do is so important, because it's been shown to increase our ability to have awareness of our thoughts. And when we're not aware of them, they're just controlling us. There's that God power that's just magically in the background ruining everything, you know? Oh. Okay, so Dorothy Parker says, oh, and I like this because it sounds like it like rhymes and it sounds musical. So, in youth, it was a way I had to do my best to please and change with every passing lad to suit his theories. But now I know the things I know and do the things I do. And if you do not like me so, to hell, my love, with you. I put this in here because for me, this is all about people pleasing and how we can compromise who we are too much in order to avoid conflict and like stay emotionally safe and not risk vulnerability in relationships. And yeah, like it's a pattern that I've certainly do from time to time. I've gotten a lot better, but I just know so many of my friends, you know, struggle with this. And so I wanted to make sure that I had it in there because it is that sense of not holding your space, and asking for the things you really need and want because you don't think you're worthy, right? Like if somehow you were to lose this relationship, that would mean you're never gonna have a relationship again, right? Or, okay, so this gets to get really complicated. And I want to just keep it kind of high level, but that's why it's in here. Okay, here's the name I'm totally gonna mess up. Michelle de Montiong. Yes. Oh, Quanatly, that's so well said. Totally. Yeah, we are taking, like, worthiness it just exists, right? But we're taking it and giving it away. Like, we're saying, no, I'm not gonna accept that. I'm gonna give you all the power over me. You're gonna tell me whether or not I'm worthy, instead of just somehow believing that you're worthy and operating from there. Yeah. Michel de Monting. Wow. The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself. The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself. That's exactly what you're talking about, Quanatly, I think. If you belong to yourself, imagine what that would be like for your life, right? Yeah, I would have less social anxiety. For sure. For sure. Oh, Michael J. Fox says, and I love this one. One's dignity may be assaulted, vandalized, and cruelly mocked, but it can never be taken away unless it is surrendered. You too. Yeah, like it's a light, it's almost like this light, like if we really believe that there's just a lightness to that. There's so much less pressure, right? Like, people can't hurt us as much, or as deeply, I guess. Yeah, so one's dignity may be assaulted, vandalized, and cruelly mocked, but it can never be taken away unless it's surrendered. I mean, you're just coming from a place of power. And it reminds me of when we live more and more authentically, which is just a way of saying, like, you're more and more often stepping outside of your comfort zone and risking sharing who you are. Which, by the way, also fluctuates and changes as you change. So we're not fixed either. So it's this very messy self-expression experience that's highly risky. But the more we do that, the less people are going to like us. Especially if you're coming from a habit of people pleasing, where you just mold yourself into what other people are going to like. And all of a sudden you're not doing that anymore. Yeah, you're gonna start getting a real yes and a real no from people. Like, people are either gonna be your friends, like they're gonna like resonate with you and connect with you, or they're not. And that can trigger all kinds of like our rejection fears, right? But it's a good sign. It is often a good sign that we are living more true to who we are. So I love this quote from Michael J. Fox because it reminds me that when we are ourselves and we are rejected, it's not something that can hurt us unless we surrender it, right? Unless we surrender to it and accept it as some sort of true judgment on our worthiness. Okay. Okay. Yeah. This is a big concept today. Shannon L. Alder says, every woman that finally figured out her worth has packed up her suitcases of pride and boarded a flight to freedom, which landed in the Valley of Change. So this totally doesn't have to be gender at all. Because I think what she's saying is that anytime somebody finally owns their worth, they are like putting their pride away, right? They're saying, I'm not gonna believe the stories you're telling me anymore, pride, about what makes me worthy or not. Like, I just am. So, okay, you're gone, pride, thank you, you're gone. And now it's that, like, you took a deep breath just imagining it. It's like, wow, like that lifting of pressure, of judgment feels freeing. Yeah, and things change because now you're outside your comfort zone and you're living your courageous, heroic adventure. So yeah, it doesn't have to be gendered at all. Oh, interesting, Yeti. Oh, man. Wow. That just made me really emotional. Because it speaks to me on an incredibly deep level. I am driven by a mission to live fully. To go all out and engage fully with life while I can. And it's like, it's why I'm here. It's why I do what I do. It's why I'm part of the Matrix Guard. And it's completely for myself and also completely for you guys, for the people that I imagine I'm serving, right? And when I hear that you're more comfortable with that, like, ho-hum, like, comfort zone, right? The comfort zone is boring. It just is. Nothing changes. We don't grow. We don't accomplish. We don't get to connect, right? It's this very safe, limited cage. And it's human nature to want it because discomfort is so ucky feeling. So the temptation and the trap of life is to stay in this ho-hum comfort zone. And that's it. Like, outside of it is magic, is excellence, is engaging fully with life. Like, our time, super limited, super precious. None of us have any idea how long we get to be here for. The odds of being born, the best they can estimate is something like winning the lottery 290,000 times. Right? So the thought that anybody somehow wastes this opportunity out of not knowing about this ho-hum like comfort zone dynamic thing, or out of fear, just it makes me really sad. I don't want that for anybody. Amen, Quantity, amen. Me too. I don't want it either. I don't want it. I don't want it for you. I don't want it for me. I don't want it for anybody who doesn't want it. Yeah. Okay. So, Ayanla Van Zant says, everything that happens to you is a reflection of what you believe about yourself. We cannot outperform our level of self-esteem. We cannot draw to ourselves more than we think we are worth. I agree and I disagree. This is a bit the chicken or the egg. And there is, because when we step outside our comfort zone, we start to change our beliefs, right? Because now we're getting new data and about ourselves, and we start to build our confidence and stuff. You can like just kind of fake it until you make it to a certain extent, and that's where I disagree with her. I agree with her because it is hard to outperform our level of self-esteem. We're up against our negative self-talk, right? That's paralyzing. And it is like we, in a very real sense, can't draw to ourselves more than we think we're worth. And that's because we don't step outside our comfort zone. Like it's hard to have a meaningful relationship with another human being, which requires risking being seen and seeing someone else if you stay inside the comfort zone. Yeah. M. Scott Peck says, until you value yourself, you won't value your time. Until you value your time, you will not do anything with it. Oh, you guys, this is what I'm talking about. Time is so precious. It's so precious. Value it. And if it requires that you value yourself, yes, please do. Please do. I mean, I value you. And I'll just somehow let that rub off. All right, my last quote. Nick Sheff says, as long as you look for someone else, this is funny after what I just said, as long as you look for someone else to validate who you are by seeking their approval, you are setting yourself up for disaster. You have to be whole and complete in yourself. No one can give you that. Man, you have to be whole and complete in yourself. No one can give you that. The amazing thing is you can give it to yourself. So guys, self-esteem does, right, require these courageous acts of radical self-acceptance and vulnerability. And now, it's time, finally, for our power-up. So here is absolutely where the rubber meets the road, and we're going to put all those earlier exercises together. So just I've already dropped this one. Oh, for sure, Quantity. This is hard work for everybody, unless you just, won the golden ticket, and the messages your family and your community gave you growing up is that you are just inherently full of worthiness as is, which is rare, really rare. We all struggle with it. I mean, as a life coach, I have not worked with a single person who, the fears that hold them back, the real fears that hold them back, where they're not tied to this lack of believing that they're worthy in and of themselves. So it's something we all struggle with and can use support around and support each other around. And I'm not sure this ever fully goes away, But what I've noticed happens is we get mastery over it. So we become more aware of when we're telling ourselves those limiting beliefs about our worthiness and our self-esteem, and then we're able to like work with them. Whereas now, for the most part, we're unaware of them and they're in control. So it's kind of like this work shines a light on it, and over time, they're kept in the light more and more often, and when we can see them, we can work with them. So, so just what would our lives be like? What would your life be like if you were coming from this place of power where your worthiness is fixed? It just exists. Nobody can take it away from you. Nobody can give it to you. You just have it. What would it be like if you didn't have to do or change anything to be worthy of love and belonging, to be enough? Right? Like, it would be wonderful. It'd be wonderful. So I guess like just a little button on this. I don't know if I need to say it again, but when we rely on external things, accomplishments, jobs, money like mine, people, when we rely on those things that are outside of ourselves to give us self-esteem, we really are denying that immutable worthiness we all have. And we're rejecting ourselves. So the thing we fear the most, which is rejection, we are doing to ourselves when we give our self-esteem away, instead of just owning it in here in our center. No, let's stop doing that. So my first question here in the power up is, what's one way that you currently reject yourself? So I'm thinking about mine, and again, no pressure to put this in chat at all. Okay. Yeah, I'm working on it. So I reject myself every time I look to Yeti Dude to make me feel attractive, to make me feel pretty, right? So he's my husband. It makes sense that I no, apologies. I didn't mean it like I'm working on it. No, totally cool. Hey, SS, that is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, we're blind to this stuff. And it's until we shine a light on it, we'll continue to be blind, and it's hard work. But yeah, that's the one that comes to my mind, right? Like, so there's two layers to this. I'm rejecting myself when I'm looking for my husband to make me feel pretty or attractive. And I'm rejecting myself when I'm telling myself I will be worthy when I'm pretty and attractive. Okay? Like, there you go. That was messy and true and real. So I guess the idea of this, how are we rejecting ourselves by giving our self-esteem or looking for our self-esteem, like, where do we look for self-esteem outside of ourselves? That's the question. And that is the act of rejection. Yeah, it's all tangled up in here for sure. But now that I did that work, right? So I noticed, okay, I'm giving my husband power, like that power over my self-esteem by looking for him to tell me I'm attractive. Okay. And then I took that a layer deeper and I said, what am I telling myself I need in order to be worthy? Oh, I need to be attractive in order to be worthy of love and belonging. So I got it down a layer that's deeper. So yeah, this is not all gonna be like, oh, after today's stream, we're all done. No, this will be an ongoing theme we can talk about for sure and help each other through. another like question that might totally, that's exactly it. That is a big part of the process. For sure. And I'm working on, so I also do, you know, I stream this on like the coaching show on Friday, and I'm working towards being able to do life coaching, like do actual coaching sessions on Cast. And if it happens the way I'm thinking it will happen, when somebody wants to be coached, they'll come on with voice, but there will just be a character, like a little animated character moving for them, so you can be anonymous. But that also would be a way that we could keep, you know, working this together. That I think will be of value, and we'll see how it works out and that kind of stuff. It's definitely going to be like a beta test. But yeah, anyways, that just came to mind. So another way to look at this is, okay, so, well, I'm going to hold this question because this is actually a better way to do it. I want to look again, we're going to go back to your list earlier of your prerequisites for worthiness. So it's all those things that you did were like, I'll be worthy when ... And we're going to start taking responsibility for these. And we're going to do it by writing out an antidote to each of them. And the quotes earlier, the stuff that jumped out to you, hey, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's so exciting. Thank you for the raid. Hi, raiders. You are coming in like right at the end of our deep dive into self-esteem, and it's like it's been a very like vulnerable inducing conversation, so it's interesting, but so nice to have you guys here. So earlier in the cast, we all came up with things that we tell ourselves we need to have before we feel like we're enough, or that like we're worthy of love. So yeah, we go deep here. So like for me, I just discovered actually that I tell myself I'll be worthy or I'll be enough when I'm attractive, right? Or like when I'm hot. So, hey, gifting! That's so lovely. Gift away. Yeah, gifts. So yeah, so we're gonna take those things we tell ourselves and we're gonna give them an antidote. So here's the hint. Each of those prereqs, right? They're telling us what we think we're lacking, what we need to have in order to be enough. And the antidote is going to reveal how you already have what you thought you lacked. Okay? So you got to figure out, what is it that I think I'm lacking? And then you answer, and then you ask yourself, how do I already have that? And this is only, those antidotes are only powerful when they ring true for you. So they're not going to make sense to everybody else. They need to make sense to you. So I'm going to give you examples by working through mine. So I mentioned earlier that one of mine is, hi, Random Boogeyman! Nice to see you. Yay, it's so nice to see you. Oh gosh, so now that people are rating, this is when I have to like tell them, oh, this is how I think I'm a loser. All right, whatever, I'm just gonna own it. Okay, so I think I'll be worthy when I'm rich, which is something I would never think about other people, but that's how I look at myself. So, and so for me, money means success. Like, if I was rich, I would be successful. So that's what I'm lacking. I am lacking a feeling of success. So I then ask myself, how am I already successful? And what I came up with is that my authenticity makes me successful. And I believe that. Like, that resonates with me because authenticity is super, super, super important to me, as you all know. So it's like you would put those together and it might not make sense to you, but for me, they make a lot of sense. So I'll be worthy when I'm rich is the belief I tell myself that kills my self-esteem and takes it away from me and gives it to somebody else, something outside my power. Whereas my authenticity makes me successful is something I'm in complete control over, I believe I already have, and it boosts my self-esteem. Does that make sense, guys? Hello, overjoyed Android. Oh, I like your handle. That is awesome. Hi, friend. Hello, heroes. Welcome. All right. So a second example of my own is I'll be worthy when I have kids. But somehow by having kids makes me unworthy or less than. So when I looked at this and I was like, why do I feel that way? What do I think I am lacking? What would kids give me that I don't already have? And that was a legacy. It was a legacy. For me, kids meant legacy. And so once I knew that, I was like, oh, okay, so how do I already have a legacy? And then it became really clear to me. So my antidote to I'll be worthy when I have kids is my coaching makes the world a better place. My streaming makes the world a better place. Like, this is my legacy, which sounds so ridiculous to say, but it's how I feel. And now I'm embarrassed again. I'm just gonna smile through the embarrassment. Okay. All right. Is this making sense? I hope my examples are being beneficial because they are not easy to be sharing. All right, so another one I tell myself is I'm not worthy because I don't have a master's degree, or I'll be worthy when I have a master's degree. I'll be enough when I have a master's degree. So for me, when I dug into this, it was this like belief that it's like I'm not smart enough. Oh, thank you, Quantity, for letting me know. Thank you. Yeah, like I always judge myself as stupid, as not smart enough, and I compare myself to people all the time. And it's really one of my most destructive habits. So I was like, okay, so what does a master's degree mean? Oh, it means I'm an expert. I'm an expert in something, and that would make me feel like I'm smart enough. So I was like, okay, what am I already an expert in? Right? So my antidote is I'm an expert at living fully. So that helped a lot. I've got 3 more examples. I'll get through them. Okay. I'll be worthy when I save my loved ones. Wow. This is the hardest one for me to explain, but I was taking responsibility for the people I loved and trying to fix things for them. Right? I was doing that a lot. I did it for many years. That was like my role in my family. And for other reasons that I'll definitely talk about in another cast, I just realized that's not the way that it does not result in the kind of relationship that is mutually supportive and all that kind of stuff. So my antidote to that is that I love others unconditionally. And I'm having a really hard time explaining the logic here. And maybe this is a really good example because it's maybe isn't a logical example. It is a felt example. So sometimes your antidote just might feel right. And you can trust that. Yeah. Okay. I'll be worthy when I never make mistakes. When I never fail. Like, what? That's never gonna happen. The more I step outside my comfort zone, the more mistakes I make, the more I fail, right? So, like, I am totally setting myself up for a lifetime of misery by believing this. Yeah, so what is it about mistakes? What do I feel like I'm lacking? It's like I'm lacking power. I'm lacking, like, the effectiveness to change the world. For me, that's what this means. So my antidote to this is my messiness is inspiring. And this probably is my mantra for how I get through streaming. Right? Because if I thought I had to be perfect to do this, I would never show up. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. But my messiness is inspiring. I'm going to believe it. I'm going to believe it. I seem to get feedback that that's true. I don't know. But I'm believing it. So, okay. All right, my last example is, oh, this one's so cheesy. I'm judging it so hard because it's going to be real embarrassing. So, I hate my skin, which is stupid. I know I get tons of like, whenever I tell this to people, they think I'm the most like vain, stupid person in the world because they judge my skin as fine, right? But I have lots of tiny like little acnes. So, you know, I feel like I'll be worthy of love and belonging when I have clear skin. Like when I finally have clear skin. And yeah, that's just terribly toxic and you can all understand why. So my antidote to that is, this is the cheesy part, I am a one-of-a-kind work of art. And we all are. We are all very unique, one-of-a-kind work of arts. And I don't fully buy into this one yet. But it does counter that negative thought that I have. And it offers up a more empowering thought in its place. So, okay, those are my examples. I think you guys get it now. There's the opportunity to take your I'll be worthy when statements and turn them into an antidote. And again, if you struggle with any of them, reach out to me, punchlifeback@thematrixguard.com. Hey, Yeti dude, if you're around, can you make sure that that email does work? I haven't, like, double-checked it in a while. Thank you, SS. I so appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Okay, so here's my last little rapid fire set of questions, and then the educational exploration is done. I want you to remember back to the beginning of the stream if you were here, and you gave yourself a self-esteem score. So it was on a scale of 1 to 10. You were gonna say how much self-esteem do I currently have? And a number 1 would be like you're completely unworthy. You have no worthiness whatsoever as a human being. And 10 was like I'm 100% worthy. You know, I have nothing else. I'm so worthy that there's no more room inside of me for anything else. We all gave ourselves a score. And now's the opportunity to score yourself again and just see if that number has changed at all. Just by going through, you know, this stream with me today. It may not have, but it's just a chance to check in. Oh, the Punch Life Back at thematrixguard.com. Thank you, Yeti dude. So once you've got your current number, and mine's now an 8. It went from a 7 to an 8. And my self-esteem tends to be high when I stream just because it has to be. So outside of this, I'm not always a 7 at all. So the question I'm going to ask you is what? Hey, SS, that's huge progress. That is like out of, what is that? A 20% improvement? I can't do math very well. Hence my I'm not smart enough fear. So, oh, okay, good, Quantity. And reach out too if you struggle with the tool. Definitely reach out. And that includes just showing up again in chat, you know, and talking. So the question becomes, what do you think it would take to move you up just one additional point? So if you're at a 1, what would it take to get to a 2? If you're a 3, what would it take to get to a 4? Yeah, just one more point. What would that look like? What would have to change for you? Or what would you have to do? And what you want to, ideally what you get out of asking that question is you have some sort of actionable item or actionable task that you can do yourself to move it up one level. So for example, maybe it's, okay, well, I watched today, I didn't do the work, and I'm gonna, create my I'm worthy when ... statements. Or, hey, I'll just do 2 of them. I'm gonna take 2 of those, and I'm gonna create an antidote, right? That would be something you've learned to do today. That would boost your self-esteem a little bit. Thank you, Yeti dude. Mwah. And then you wanna ask yourself when you're gonna do it by. You wanna set a deadline. That'll help keep you accountable. And then you have the opportunity to ask yourself, how would you like to be accountable on top of a deadline? So this could be putting it into chat right now and having public accountability, which of course, as you know, requires bravery. It could be putting it in your calendar and getting a reminder. You could email me what you're gonna do and let me know. You could just text a friend. You could just write it on like a Post-it note and put it on your mirror, right? Like there's so many different ways to do it. So, with that being said, you guys, that is our educational exploration. Oh, quietly, awesome. So, one thing you can do if you're wanting to rewatch is if you go to our channel on YouTube, we have a playlist called Beyond Zero Tidbits. And it's like life coaching, Beyond Zero Tidbits. Those are our educational explorations on their own. So everything we just did in an hour is in a video that lasts like 10 to 15 minutes. So if you want to just do that, that'll save you a lot of time. It's the same content, just doesn't have our discussion. And that's a really good way to be able to do the work without having to sub or become a Patreon patron and to get the worksheet too. Although I think you were gifted a sub, so you can join our sub-only Discord and also get the worksheet that has like my notes and all the exercise stuff there. You're so welcome. So yeah, we are streaming a little bit later than we normally do today, which I'm totally good with today because my meetings got canceled. So I want to wrap this all up by doing our mindfulness power up. So we're gonna meditate for 5 minutes. And hey SS, dude, just the fact that like your intention is there is like, I can't even tell you how happy that makes me. And no, like it is a lot of material. And I just encourage you to not feel pressure to do it all at once or to be perfect about it or anything like that. My intention for the Friday cast is to do life coaching, where I can like help people work through that material and do like really help them with whatever they want life coaching around, and where we can like practice what we've been learning in earlier streams so that it's not always just new material, right? That we can actually like digest it, learn it, and all kind of stuff. So that might be a really, in the future, you might really enjoy that part of it.